All right, so get this. What if I told you that, like, trying to look rich is actually what's keeping you poor?
Hmm.
We are diving deep today into this idea, this concept called looking poor.
Joy.
And yeah, it is as counterintuitive as it sounds.
Yeah.
You sent us some really thought-provoking articles about this, and we can't wait to unpack all this with you.
Yeah, this is fascinating. This idea that financial restraint, even if it means kind of flying under the radar in terms of appearances, can actually be like a secret weapon for building real wealth and security.
Yeah,
You know?
because I feel like we're so bombarded with all these images of success,
Right.
right? Perfectly curated social media feeds with the luxury cars and, the designer everything.
Mhm.
And it's so easy to just fall into that trap of thinking that you need to project a certain image to be considered successful.
Absolutely. And the source material actually opens with a personal story
Okay.
from the author about falling into that exact trap,
Um,
talking about racking up debt just to keep up appearances and how it ultimately led to some pretty harsh financial lessons.
That's so relatable.
Yeah.
I remember when I first started out in my career, I felt this pressure to buy a fancy car, thinking it would make me seem, more successful.
Right.
But looking back, I realized it was just me feeding into that societal pressure, like, look the part.
Yeah, and studies show that this pressure to keep up with the Joneses is incredibly powerful.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, research suggests that people are more likely to make impulsive purchases when they feel like they're falling behind their peers financially.
Wow. So we're actually wired to compare ourselves
Yeah.
and, like, make decisions based on what others are doing, even if it's not financially smart for us. It's like
Yeah.
our brains are working against us.
Absolutely. And social media just amplifies that effect.
Yeah.
We're constantly exposed to these like curated versions of reality,
Right.
which makes it even harder to resist that temptation to keep up.
So how do we break free from that cycle? This whole looking poor idea seems like the complete opposite of what we're conditioned to believe.
Right, and that's what makes it so intriguing.
Okay.
The source argues that embracing this financial humility can actually lead to greater wealth and happiness in the long run.
But wait, doesn't looking successful sometimes open doors? Like, what about networking or even getting a loan?
Here.
Don't appearances matter in those situations?
That's a great point, and there's definitely a balance to be struck.
Okay.
But the key distinction here is that looking poor isn't about being sloppy or
Right.
neglecting your appearance altogether.
Right.
It's about being intentional with your spending and prioritizing financial security over these flashy displays of wealth.
So it's less about what you wear and more about where you choose to invest your money.
Exactly. The source highlights a really interesting contrast.
Okay.
Many truly wealthy individuals, like billionaires, often don't focus on looking rich.
Hmm.
They prioritize financial security and freedom over those status symbols.
So it's like that saying, you might be rich, but I'm wealthy.
Right. True wealth isn't always visible.
I like that.
Think about it.
Mhm.
Would you rather have a flashy car and a mountain of debt,
Yeah.
or a modest car and a healthy investment portfolio?
Okay. I'm starting to see how this looking poor concept actually makes a lot of sense.
Right.
But how do we actually put it into practice?
Yeah.
The author mentions this idea of margin as a key factor.
Yes, margin is the gap between your income and your expenses.
Okay.
The wider that gap, the more financial flexibility and freedom you have.
So it's not just about earning more, it's also about being mindful of how much you're spending.
Precisely. The source uses a great example to illustrate this.
Okay.
Imagine you're choosing between two cars.
Mm-hmm.
One is a brand new BMW with a hefty monthly payment, and the other is a reliable Toyota Corolla that costs half as much.
Yeah, I'm already feeling my bank account breathe a sigh of relief just thinking about the Corolla.
Right, both cars will get you from point A to point B, but that BMW eats up a huge chunk of your margin. That means less money for things like investing, saving for retirement, or even just having a comfortable cushion for unexpected expenses.
So even though that BMW might feel good in the moment, it could actually be limiting your financial freedom in the long run.
Exactly, and that's where the looking poor philosophy comes in.
Okay.
It's not about depriving yourself, but rather about being strategic with your spending
Yeah.
so you can create a wider margin and ultimately achieve your long-term financial goals.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about the emotional side of things? Let's be honest. Sometimes buying things we don't necessarily need just feels good.
Oh, absolutely.
Like that new gadget or that designer handbag.
And that's where this idea of the hedonic treadmill comes in.
Okay. The hedonic treadmill, is that like when you order dessert even though you're already full?
It's more about how we adapt to new possessions.
Okay.
Like that initial thrill that we get from buying something new fades surprisingly quickly,
Okay.
and then we're left wanting more. It's like we're running in place, constantly chasing that next hit of satisfaction.
Oh, I totally get that. It's like when you finally get that new iPhone you've been wanting,
Right.
and for like a week or two, it's the best thing ever.
Yeah.
But then it just becomes your phone.
Right.
And you're already looking at what the next upgrade will be.
Exactly. Studies have actually shown that the happiness boost we get from material purchases, beyond, basic needs like food and shelter, tends to fade within just a few weeks.
Wow.
So we're not really buying lasting happiness, we're just buying a temporary high.
So how do we get off this hedonic treadmill? It feels like we're programmed to want more.
Well, the source argues that looking poor can actually help break this cycle.
Really?
By shifting our focus away from material possessions,
Okay.
we can start to appreciate what we already have and find contentment in experiences and relationships.
That makes sense. Instead of constantly seeking validation through stuff, we can focus on building genuine connections and pursuing passions that bring us lasting joy.
Right. And the source argues that this shift in mindset can actually lead to greater financial freedom as well.
Okay.
Because when you're not constantly chasing the next shiny object,
Yeah.
you're able to save more, invest more, and build a more secure financial future.
So looking poor isn't about actually being poor. It's more about being mindful of your spending habits and aligning them with your values.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that true wealth isn't about what you own, but about the freedom and security you create for yourself.
I like that.
Which brings us to another key point from the source material.
Okay.
This idea that real wealth is invisible.
Invisible. So like we're talking secret bank accounts and buried treasure chests.
Not quite. Think of it this way. Would you rather have a luxury car, but no savings,
Yeah.
or a modest car and a robust emergency fund?
Mm.
Would you rather have a closet full of designer clothes or the financial security to pursue your dream career, even if it means taking a pay cut?
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
It's about having that peace of mind, knowing that you're prepared for whatever life throws your way.
Right.
And that's not something you can necessarily see from the outside.
Exactly. Real wealth is about having a solid financial foundation,
Okay.
a healthy emergency fund investments that are working for you, and the ability to make choices without being constantly stressed about money.
Okay, so looking poor isn't about denying yourself nice things altogether. It's about being smart with your money and building a life that prioritizes long-term security and happiness over fleeting material possessions.
Right. It's about making choices that align with your values and goals, even if those choices aren't always the most glamorous or Instagram-worthy.
So how do we actually start putting this looking poor philosophy into practice? What are some concrete steps we can take?
Well, the source offers some great suggestions.
Okay.
First, track your spending.
Okay.
You can't make informed decisions about your money if you don't know where it's going.
Right.
There are tons of apps and tools that can help with this.
Yeah, I've tried those budgeting apps before, but I always end up abandoning them after a few weeks.
Sure.
Any tips for staying motivated?
Try setting specific financial goals that you're excited about.
Okay.
Instead of just saving money, focus on saving for that dream trip, down payment on a house, or early retirement.
Yeah,
Visualizing those goals can make it easier to stay on track with your spending.
that's a great idea. I'm much more likely to stick to a budget if I know it's helping me get closer to something I really want.
Another key step is to automate your savings.
Okay.
Set up automatic transfers from your checking account to your savings or investment accounts each month.
Mm-hmm.
This way, you're less likely to spend money that's earmarked for your future goals.
That's smart. Kind of like paying yourself first.
Exactly. And finally, challenge yourself to think differently about material possessions.
Okay.
Before you make a big purchase, ask yourself, is this something I truly need? Or am I just buying it to impress others or keep up with the trend?
That's a tough one, especially when we're bombarded with advertising and social media posts that make us feel like we need the latest and greatest everything.
I know it's not easy, but even just being aware of those influences can make a big difference in how we make financial decisions.
Right.
Remember, true wealth isn't about having the most stuff. It's about having the freedom to live a life that aligns with your values.
So it sounds like this looking poor philosophy is really about shifting our mindset and prioritizing long-term financial well-being over short-term gratification.
You got it. It's about recognizing that true wealth is about having options and security, not about showing off.
So what does this all mean for us, the everyday people trying to navigate this crazy world of financial pressures and social media comparisons? It feels like we're constantly being told to hustle harder, earn more, and buy more.
Right.
But what if the real key to financial freedom is actually wanting less?
That's a really powerful question. And it gets to the heart of this whole looking poor philosophy.
Yeah.
It's not about deprivation.
Right.
It's about intentionality.
Okay.
It's about defining what truly matters to you and making choices that align with those values.
So maybe looking poor isn't about driving a beat-up car or wearing hand-me-downs.
Right.
Maybe it's about having the courage to, like, define wealth on your own terms.
Exactly. Maybe it's about investing in experiences over things, prioritizing time with loved ones
Mm.
over chasing that next promotion, or finding joy in simplicity and contentment.
I love that, finding joy in simplicity in a world that's constantly telling us we need more, more, more. It's so refreshing to hear a message that encourages us to find contentment in what we already have.
And remember, it's not an all or nothing
Yeah.
proposition.
Right.
You don't have to suddenly become a minimalist or give up all your possessions.
Right.
It's about finding a balance that works for you.
So it's about being mindful and making conscious choices that align with, your values and goals.
Precisely. And the beauty of this approach is that it can be applied to any income level.
Right.
You don't have to be a billionaire to benefit from the looking poor philosophy.
That's so important to point out. Financial freedom isn't just for the elite. It's something we can all strive for regardless of our current circumstances.
Absolutely. And remember the most valuable things in life.
Mm-hmm.
Love, connection, purpose. Those are things you can't buy no matter how much money you have.
This deep dive has been such an eye-opener. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling inspired to rethink my own relationship with money and what it truly means to live a wealthy life.
I'm glad to hear that. And remember, it's a journey, not a
Uh,
destination.
Right.
There will be times when you slip up or make choices that don't align with your goals.
Yeah.
The key is to just keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving to create a life of true abundance,
Yeah.
both financially and personally.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So as we wrap up this fascinating deep dive into the unexpected power of looking poor, we want to leave you with one final thought to ponder.
How might shifting your mindset about wealth and appearances impact your financial decisions and ultimately your happiness? It's a question worth reflecting on as you continue your own financial journey.
It really is. Thanks for joining us on this thought-provoking exploration of a truly counterintuitive concept. We hope you've gained some valuable insights and maybe even a little inspiration to create a life that's rich in experiences, relationships, and purpose, regardless of what it looks like from the outside.
Until next time, happy diving.